Understanding pawn shop loans. How pawn shop loans work, can you explain the process?
Well, the way the pawn shop works is the client would bring in their article, we would appraise it, make an agreement with the client based on their needs, request for identification so everything gets scanned and processed properly, seal the loan, mark it, cash out the customer, whether it's cash, check, or wire transfer based on the client's needs and wants, and then we put it in one of our storage facilities, whether it's in the bank vault or in one of our vaults, to make sure that the item is safe and secure. Then the client has up to 4 to 6 months. I mean, it's the client's choice. Some clients would rather a longer term loan, some a 4-month term loan. We can do either. We also give the client the ability to pick up their loan within any time of that term of the loan. So if they typically use the loan anytime within the first 30 days, they would only be charged for 1 month as opposed to the whole term of the loan, similar to what banks do. They charge you prorated fees and certain fees. We don't. It's to use the month, you pay for the month.
Obtaining a loan. What steps does one need to follow to get a loan at a pawn shop? Are there any specific requirements or documents needed?
So absolutely not. We are the people's bank, and we strongly stand behind those words. And what we mean by that is we are not a socialistic company. We don't intrude in your credit history. We don't ask where you're from. We are not prejudiced. We don't prejudge. And we're here only to help and to serve you, the people. So basically all you need is your ID, and there are no other questions asked. You are typically out of the office within 15 minutes with all the cash.
Loan amounts. On average, how much can someone expect to borrow from a pawn shop?
So depending on the item collateralized, a person can borrow anywhere from $50 up to $500,000 on a loan, depending on what they need and what they have.
Loan duration. How long does a typical pawn shop loan last?
So a typical pawn shop loan term is 4 months. We extend that courtesy to our client, and we give them the option of 6 months. That'll be their choice to keep them secure. And now we also give them the right to come in anytime during the duration of the loan. If they choose to pay less, they can pick up their loan much sooner and pay only a fraction of the agreed amount.
Non-payment consequences. What happens if a customer is unable to pay back a pawn shop loan? What are the consequences of defaulting on the loan?
So New York One Pawn has the lowest default rating in the country. New York One Pawn works with our clients as much as we can to make sure that they don't default on their valuables and their family's heirlooms. So typically when a client is behind and he's having trouble paying, we always usually figure out a way to break the payments down in installments and help the client get back on their feet and pull out their loan. If the client chooses to default on their loan, then based on the agreement with the client, the pledge would then be sold, and that money would be used to satisfy the amount that would be due, typically to cover the amount of the loan plus the interest that was due to the company.
Interest rates. How much interest does a pawn shop typically charge on a loan?
So a typical pawn shop in New York charges up to 73.5% a year, which includes all of these different kinds of fees, hidden fees that they put into their loan agreements. We charge as low as 1% per month. We don't have hidden fees.
Wow, it's very cheap.
That's correct. Our rates are anywhere from 1 to 4%, depending on the loan amount, depending on the percentage of collateralization. Each client has different needs and requests, and what we do is we do our best to accommodate no matter what.
Additional insights. Loan extensions and renewals. Can customers extend or renew their pawn shop loans? If so, what is the process and are there any additional costs involved?
Of course, so typically after a loan is made, we give the clients, like we said, up to 6 months to either extend or redeem their loan. We pay them and we don't request any money up front. When the client is ready to redeem, only then would we request for the interest agreed upon for the arrears the previous months that are due to us at the time of redemption or at the time of extension. If you're having trouble coming up with the whole amount, we'll be willing to take a small interest rate as we agreed in order to extend the pledge 4 months or 6 months later. We would reissue you another pledge to give you another term so that you can have much more time to redeem your loan. There is no risk.
Item retrieval. Once the loan is paid off, how does the process of retrieving the pawned item work? Is there any waiting period?
Usually it takes just as much time to retrieve a pawn as it does to make a pawn. Basically, client would come in, hand us over their pawn slip. If it's a very high-end loan, a lot of money involved, a lot more security, we usually request 24-hour notice prior to pickup, but generally a client can just walk in with their pledge and or their ID and be able to retrieve their loan within 15 minutes of coming into the business.
Advantages over other loan types. What advantages do pawn shop loans offer compared to other types of loans or credit options?
So at New York One Pawn, the reason why we consider ourselves the People's Bank is, number one, as opposed to general banks which require lengthy hours of applications, background checks, and waiting time in order to receive a potential loan. New York One Pawn has the funds in your hands or in your account within 15 minutes of walking into the establishment. Unintrusive, all we need is your ID, and that's all that's needed to pick up. Other companies that do small business loans, we consider that close to predatory lending. The rates are ridiculous. So I would recommend to stay away from predatory lenders and stay away from regular banking institutions. If you can, just walk into the People's Bank, New York One Pawn, and we will take care of all of your needs.
Privacy and credit impact. How do pawn shop loans impact a customer's credit score? Is the loan process confidential?
So the typical pawn shops, very confidential. As opposed to, again, a regular typical bank where you would walk in, your information is in their database, can be compromised, someone else can pull up that information. With the pawn shops, your items are completely safe and secure and 100% private. There is no one that will know your business ever. It's the most private transaction, secure and safe, that is possible to do when getting a loan.